Launched 50 caliber machine gun. This gun fired the most important shots in Yorktown's history, but they weren't aimed at the enemy. What happened next saved 2 lives in the ship's final hours. Picture this. You're a marine archaeologist in 2025, sending robots down over 3 miles into the Pacific Ocean. Your target is the USS Yorktown, the aircraft carrier that helped win the Battle of Midway before being sunk by Japanese torpedoes. You're expecting to find a deteriorated wreck, maybe some scattered debris. Instead, your cameras reveal something that makes your blood run cold. A massive machine gun, perfectly preserved, sitting exactly where desperate survivors used it to signal for rescue 83 years ago. This is the water-cooled Browning M2 anti-aircraft machine gun, chambered in 50 BMG. When it was operational, this beast could fire 550 rounds per minute with deadly accuracy up to 2,000 yards. The NOAA expedition team found it mounted on the aft port boat, well, over 16,000 feet, down in the crushing darkness of the deep Pacific. But here's the crazy part. The mount was still intact, positioned exactly as it was during those desperate final hours on June 6, 1942. These guns were installed on flexible mounts all around Yorktown's deck edges and superstructure. The idea was simple. When Japanese planes came screaming in for strafing runs or low-altitude attacks, gun crews could rapidly swing these weapons around and unleash hell. Each gun was designed for quick response, and in the early Pacific War, they formed a crucial part of Yorktown's layered air defense strategy. The crews trained relentlessly because they knew their lives depended on how fast they could get these guns into action. But by June 6, 1942, everything had gone wrong. Yorktown had survived the initial Japanese carrier attacks during the Battle of Midway on June 4th, but she was dead in the water. Japanese submarine I-168 had found her and put 2 torpedoes into her hull at 14:30 hours. The ship was listing heavily. Fires had been largely controlled, and Captain Buckmaster had given the order that every sailor dreads: abandon ship. The crew was evacuated to accompanying destroyers, but in the chaos of abandonment, 2 men were left aboard, presumed dead. Now, here's where this story gets absolutely incredible. As the ship sat listing in the darkness between June 6th and 7th, one of those 2 survivors made it to this exact gun position. These men had been given up for dead, written off in the tragedy of a sinking aircraft carrier. But one of them wasn't ready to die quietly. He reached this machine gun and did something that shows you the resourcefulness of the men who served on these ships. He turned that gun skyward and fired signal shots into the night air. Those shots weren't random. They were deliberate signals to alert the nearby destroyer USS Hughes that there were still living souls aboard Yorktown. The muzzle flashes cut through the darkness like a distress beacon, and the destroyer crews heard the distinctive sound of the 50 caliber firing. They moved in and rescued both men, though one would later die from his injuries. This gun, designed to kill enemy aircraft, became an instrument of salvation in the hands of a survivor who refused to give up. The preservation of this weapon is almost supernatural. After 83 years underwater, subjected to crushing pressure and corrosive salt water, it sits there like a monument to that survivor's determination. Marine growth covers parts of the metal, but the structure remains sound. The mount still points toward the sky, where those life-saving signal shots were fired into the Pacific night. But this wasn't the only weapon that tells a story of innovation and sacrifice. 20 Oerlikon anti-aircraft gun. This Swiss-engineered weapon represented cutting-edge technology when it was installed, but even advanced engineering couldn't save Yorktown from what happened next. The 2025 robotic dives revealed something that sent chills down every researcher's spine. There, on Yorktown's flight deck, sat a 20 Oerlikon anti-aircraft gun, encrusted with marine growth but structurally intact. It was positioned at the ready, as if the gun crew had just stepped away for a moment instead of being gone for over 8 decades. The deep-sea environment had preserved it in an almost perfect state, creating this eerie tableau of frozen combat readiness. This wasn't just any gun. This was Swiss engineering excellence that had been installed on Yorktown when she departed Norfolk on December 16, 1941, just 9 days after Pearl Harbor. The Oerlikon was a single-barrel autocannon that could spit out 20mm high-explosive shells at a devastating 450 rounds per minute. Its effective range against aircraft was about 1,500 yards, and unlike the heavier guns on the ship, this thing could traverse and elevate lightning fast. It was specifically designed to shred dive bombers and torpedo planes before they could deliver their deadly payloads. By February 1942, Yorktown carried 24 of these weapons, representing a massive upgrade in close-range anti-aircraft capability. American naval commanders had recognized after Pearl Harbor that Japanese pilots were phenomenally skilled, and existing anti-aircraft defenses needed serious enhancement. The Oerlikon's lightweight, air-cooled design made it perfect for rapid deployment across the ship's deck spaces, giving gun crews the ability to engage fast-moving targets at close range. The Oerlikon supplemented the ship's heavier guns with rapid-fire capability. While the big 5-inch guns could reach out and engage aircraft at long range, the Oerlikons were designed for close-in defensive work. When Japanese dive bombers came screaming down at steep angles, when torpedo planes skimmed just above the wave tops, that's when these guns earned their keep. The crews could swing them around fast enough to track even the most agile enemy aircraft, filling the sky with a deadly curtain of 20 Munich Tidor shells. During the Battle of Midway on June 4th, Yorktown's anti-aircraft fire was absolutely ferocious. These Oerlikon guns, along with the rest of the ship's defensive armament, managed to down several Japanese attackers. You have to understand, these weren't random lucky shots. This was coordinated, disciplined fire from well-trained crews who knew their ship's survival depended on their accuracy. Yorktown had already proven these weapons in combat at the Battle of Coral Sea in May 1942, where her enhanced anti-aircraft defenses had performed admirably. But even Swiss precision and American determination couldn't overcome coordinated Japanese naval aviation. The multiple waves of dive bombers, torpedo planes, and fighters from the Japanese carrier Hiryu eventually overwhelmed Yorktown's defenses. The gun crews fought with incredible skill and courage, some of them dying at their positions rather than abandoning their posts. This particular Oerlikon was found exactly where its crew left it, ready for action, but silenced forever. The preservation of this weapon represents more than just metal surviving in seawater. It's a testament to the rapid technological adaptation that characterized the early Pacific War, when American industry and Swiss engineering combined to create weapons that could match Japanese tactical innovation. The fact that it sits on the ocean floor, still ready for action after 83 years, tells the story of the men who operated it and the desperate battles they fought. But the most powerful weapons were the ones that defined Yorktown's defensive strategy. 5-inch dual-purpose gun. These guns delivered Yorktown's most devastating defensive fire during the Battle of Midway, and their final position after 83 years tells an incredible story of American naval engineering. When the research teams found these massive Mark 12 naval guns during the 1998 expedition and confirmed their condition in 2025, they discovered something that perfectly captured the moment of battle. The barrels were still pointing skyward, covered in decades of sediment and colonized by sea anemones, but maintaining their imposing form at over 16,000 feet depth. It was as if the gun crews had just secured their weapons after the battle, not knowing their ship would be gone within days. These weren't your typical naval guns. These were technological marvels that revolutionized naval warfare. Each Mark 12 gun featured a .38 caliber barrel that could fire 5-inch projectiles at a rate of 15 to 20 rounds per minute. But here's where it gets impressive. They were dual-purpose weapons, meaning they could engage both surface ships at ranges up to 18,000 yards, and aircraft at altitudes up to 37,000 feet, using time-fused shells. Yorktown carried 8 of these monsters, mounted in single open positions around the flight deck to provide complete 360-degree coverage. The fire control systems on these guns were cutting-edge for 1942. Advanced targeting computers calculated firing solutions based on enemy speed, direction, and range. This wasn't spray and pray. This was precision artillery that could track and engage multiple targets simultaneously. The gun crews trained constantly because operating these weapons required split-second timing and perfect coordination between the gunner, loader, and fire control operator. During the Battle of Midway on June 4, 1942, These specific guns became the backbone of Yorktown's defensive firepower. When aircraft from the Japanese carrier Hiryu came screaming in for their coordinated attacks, these 5-inch guns opened up with everything they had. Captain Buckmaster's battle reports describe the intense barrages delivered by these weapons, contributing directly to the downing of multiple Val dive bombers and other attacking aircraft. The gun crews worked in the brutal Pacific heat, loading shell after shell as wave after wave of Japanese aircraft approached their ship. Picture the scene during those critical hours on June 4th. The sky is full of enemy aircraft, and the gun crews are drenched in sweat, their ears ringing from the constant explosions of their own weapons. Shell casings pile up around their positions as they fire continuously at the incoming threat. These men know that every shot matters, that their accuracy will determine whether Yorktown survives or becomes another casualty in the Pacific graveyard. The dual-purpose design meant they could engage high-altitude bombers one minute and target Japanese torpedo planes skimming the wave tops the next. The guns performed magnificently during the air attacks, helping Yorktown survive the initial Japanese strikes that would eventually sink other carriers. Even after taking bomb hits that started fires and caused significant damage, Yorktown's guns continued their defensive fire until the immediate threat passed. The crews maintained their positions with incredible discipline, keeping their weapons operational even as their ship burned around them. What makes the current position of these guns so poignant is that they represent Yorktown's final operational configuration. After the June 4th attacks, while the ship was under salvage operations, these guns stood ready but silent. The fact that they're still pointing skyward after 83 years creates this powerful monument to American naval gunnery and the men who operated these weapons with such deadly effectiveness. The encrusted mounts preserve more than just metal and machinery. They preserve the memory of one of the most significant naval battles in history. These guns helped change the course of the Pacific War through their performance at Midway, proving that American technology and training could match Japanese naval aviation. They represent both American industrial capability and the incredible skill of the gun crews who turned them into instruments of victory. But the most chilling discovery revealed just how close Yorktown came to delivering even more devastating blows to the Japanese fleet. 1,000-pound general-purpose bomb. This weapon was armed and ready to change history when disaster struck Yorktown's hangar deck. It's been sitting on the ocean floor for 83 years, still carrying enough explosive power to level a city block. When the 2025 NOAA expedition sent their cameras into Yorktown's hangar deck, they expected to find aircraft wreckage. What they didn't expect was to come face to face with one of the most dangerous artifacts in maritime archaeology. There, in the aft starboard quarter near elevator number 3, they found an AN M65 high-explosive bomb still secured in the release cradle of an inverted Douglas SBD Dauntless dive bomber. This wasn't just any ordnance. This was a fully armed 1,000-pound weapon of mass destruction that had been waiting 83 years in the deep Pacific darkness. The bomb itself represents deadly engineering perfection, weighing approximately 1,000 pounds with a TNT filler of around 535 pounds. It was designed specifically for aerial delivery by dive bombers to penetrate armored decks and fortified positions. The streamlined casing was crafted for accuracy during steep diving attacks, and it featured a delayed action fuse designed to maximize destruction upon impact. This particular bomb was meant to punch through the armored deck of a Japanese aircraft carrier and explode inside, causing catastrophic damage to the ship's vital systems. The aircraft wreckage around this bomb tells an incredible story of preparation and chaos. The 2025 expedition found at least 3 jumbled aircraft wrecks in this section of the hangar deck, including one SBD Dauntless from USS Enterprise's VB-6 squadron. This highlights the desperate nature of Midway operations, where aircraft from multiple carriers were being shuffled around, refueled, rearmed, and prepared for immediate launch as the tactical situation changed by the minute. According to Captain Buckmaster's official reports, this bomb came from Yorktown's reserve arsenal and had been fueled and armed for rapid deployment during offensive operations against the Japanese fleet. The ground crews were working frantically to get every available aircraft loaded with maximum ordnance and launched against enemy carriers. These bombs were absolutely critical to Yorktown's strike capabilities. Weapons exactly like this one helped American forces sink 4 Japanese carriers at Midway and fundamentally alter the balance of power in the Pacific. But then disaster struck the hangar deck on June 4, 1942. Japanese bombs penetrated Yorktown's flight deck and exploded in the hangar spaces below, causing massive fires and forcing immediate evacuation of the area. The scene that the 2025 expedition discovered preserves that moment of chaos perfectly. Aircraft twisted and damaged by fire, equipment scattered across the deck, and ordnance abandoned in place as crews fought the flames and tried to save their ship. The remarkable preservation of this bomb despite the fire damage creates an incredible time capsule of American striking power, frozen at the moment of crisis. Here's what makes this discovery absolutely sobering. After 83 years underwater, the explosive components of this bomb could theoretically still be active. The AN-M65 was built with incredibly stable explosives, designed to survive the stresses of combat deployment, carrier operations, and violent maneuvers. While salt water has certainly affected many components, the core explosive material was engineered to remain viable under extreme conditions. This makes the bomb one of the most dangerous artifacts on the entire wreck site, which is why modern expeditions maintain strict, non-invasive protocols. The weapon represents suspended offensive potential that's almost haunting in its implications. This bomb was ready to change history, loaded on an aircraft that was prepared to launch against the Japanese fleet. Instead, it became a casualty of the same kind of devastating attack it was designed to deliver. The untouched state of this ordnance captures the razor-thin margins that define the Battle of Midway. If that Dauntless had launched successfully, if this specific bomb had found its intended target, the outcome of individual carrier duels might have been different. Instead, it sits in the eternal darkness of the deep Pacific, a monument to the incredible destructive power that both sides brought to bear during those decisive days in June 1942. After more than 8 decades on the ocean floor, this bomb serves as a sobering reminder of how individual moments and mechanical failures could alter the course of entire wars. It represents both the incredible industrial capacity that America brought to the Pacific War and the desperate nature of carrier operations, where every weapon mattered and every mission could change everything. The weapons of Yorktown tell the story of American naval power at its most critical moment, preserved forever in the deep Pacific as monuments to the men who fought and died to change the course of history. Click that video on your screen to see more incredible discoveries from the deep Pacific that changed our understanding of World War II.